Hey guys, I have two openings to take on factory partnerships where I'll be your partner on Amazon. You would work directly with me and sell through one of our accounts. If this is of interest to you, please email me directly, danny@sellersessions.com. Also, we're now open to take on more clients for our PPC agency Databricks. You can visit sellersessions.com/agency for more details and also request some of our new case studies. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, turning around your business, some troubleshooting, dealing with ranking or PPC issues, you can book 1-hour consults via sellersessions.com/consultancy. Basically, this is a cost-effective way to troubleshoot your business and get a video recording of the session so you're able to put it into action post-call. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Again, I bring back my friend Steve Simonson. How you doing, Steve?
I'm very well, thank you. Glad to be back.
Excellent. Cool. So last time I see you was over for our event in London, which Athena put on. You was a speaker there, which was a good night. We had a lot of good UK-based Amazon sellers come out, and they all had a good drink and a good party. And it was quite a good Christmas meal. But you're a non-drinker, aren't you, yourself?
I am a non-drinker. I'm a teetotaler, I believe is the proper British term. And but I enjoyed the night immensely. It was, filled with revelry and fun and story exchanging and even some best practices and some hack exchanging. Yeah. And all of it, around the dinner and drink, which I love. That's one of my favorite things to do. So it was a pleasure to fly over to London for that event.
I enjoyed it. The next day was very, very tough. But a lot of people were two sheets to the wind, put it that way. But it was a good night. And the main thing is that people got together and they had fun. So today, I just want to have a chat with you as a person that's got relationships where you often visit Amazon. Are you based near HQ anyway, aren't you?
I am, yes. I'm in Seattle. I live in the countryside right now, but it's very common for me to be in one of the very extensive network of buildings that Amazon has in, kind of on a monthly basis, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but it's frequent and all of it is trying to drive awareness to Amazon, problem solve, even help as well. We often will participate in research projects just to try to give them some influence on, here's what sellers think in the real world. Exactly. And try to add a little bit of reality to what they're doing inside their little bubble.
Cool. So one of the pressing topics I want to talk about, which is it's been reported in the press, there's a news article that we originally discussed about off call about how the state of Amazon's marketplace represents China's unfair practices. But one of those things in there is the recent data leaks. Obviously, Amazon has had an issue with data leaks in a few areas, one of them is customer data was exposed. You remember there was an email went round and it was kind of tight-lipped, which is kind of embarrassing. From my understanding, obviously some hacking going on and I don't know how it all kind of come together, but obviously they're under the spotlight for that. I mean, with your chats, I know it's a corporation and there's only so many things that can be said. Has there been any murmurs out of Amazon with the data leaks from your point of view, from discussions you've had where you can, talk?
Yeah, so I do have a series of kind of NDAs and things like that, but most of this, all of this that we'll discuss will be outside of that range. I can say that even when we discuss this concept of, data leaks or hacks, or even we'll probably get into the idea of, bribes and things like that, that, the people that we're dealing with and talking to are just as aghast and outraged and maybe even surprised as we are. That said, there's a sense also that any company is going to face hackers. And really, if the best of the world are getting hacked, we're talking about, Visa, MasterCard, Marriott, Target, Walmart, the list goes on and on. If everybody can get hacked, then nobody's immune. Yeah. And so it's not unique to Amazon per se, but there is a sense of kind of, we don't know what to do on the hack side. On the bribe side, I think they're taking very aggressive action, and I think they're highly embarrassed by it. And if there's anything that's true about Amazon, is they respond to negative publicity.
They do
in a very significant way.
It's almost like you know, if you look at it as a situation whereby I see a trend in the last year or so where more and more news reports are appearing and people openly are going to the press. They've got their contacts at NCBC and a few other places, Wall Street Journal. I mean, I've been interviewed for stuff as well, but there was a massive article. I haven't said this before, but I got interviewed by the editor. I can't remember the magazine now, but there was a massive article about Amazon, but pretty much it was all negative stuff. And he's trying to get me to talk off record and talk shit about Amazon. And I just refused to do it. And I didn't make the piece. But there are a lot of people out there that did make the piece. But I just, you know, for me, it's like, I don't want to dance with the devil. I'm not here to shit on Amazon, but I want Amazon sellers to be aware of what's going on out there so they can make up their own mind. But I am finding it very interesting that the Amazon reacts to the press. They react more so to the press when it relates to customers' trust, customer reviews, or anything related to the customer. Now, the stuff that's going on, like the Wall Street Journal article about brushing and the black hat, that's not as bad for Amazon, I see, because that's more back-end stuff. You know, if someone's doing vendor central abuse, the customers are not interested in that. What they're interested in is the manipulation of reviews. That's the big standout point because that's the trust factor. So,
well, I think you hit it really on the head, honestly. The fact is, first of all, it's not productive for any of us just to sit back and trash Amazon.
Exactly.
By the same token, I am a huge advocate of holding Amazon to account. You know, they want to hold us to account on every possible front when it comes to, you know, all the crazy little terms of service that they throw in and change willy-nilly. And I say they should hold themselves to the same standards. We know, for example, that Amazon, with their own brands, will often do all kinds of things that are against terms of service for us. So I really, you know, I look at it and I want to treat Amazon like they treat us. It's like, hey, hold yourself to a high standard. We hold you accountable. You hold us accountable. It's fair.
Yeah.
One of the articles you may have mentioned or may have been inferring about was the Atlantic articles, the Atlantic magazine article, which was a very in-depth piece, very, very insightful. And it was largely about the world of kind of the get-rich-quick schemers who are selling to, you know, people who think they're going to get rich, and then it turns out that it's hard work and so on. Yeah. But, you know, if I just back up for a minute, I would say that, you know, Amazon, they are obsessed about their customers, but they have this dichotomy because letting Chinese sellers manipulate reviews. By the way, leaving negative reviews was kind of the old trick. Today, leaving positive reviews is just as dangerous for sellers, right? They'll go and leave a bunch of positive reviews on a seller, and you'll find that seller then can take no more reviews. You know, their items turned off for reviews kind of in the penalty box. So there's so many unscrupulous things that the Chinese sellers have engaged in. It's not unique to China, but it's certainly centered and concentrated there. That Amazon they're not ignoring it, but they're not acting as quickly as I think that they should.
Yeah.
And one of the most basic things they could do is just make the China side seller operate the same way that some of us have to. Appropriate tax ID numbers and all of the other requirements we have to go through. That is an advantage that is specifically edging and helping Chinese suppliers, and it's with full knowledge and complicity of Amazon, and it's something that I dislike immensely.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So is there any, you know, with the people that you chat, you know, you mentioned about embarrassed and stuff, like one of the things that you just brought light to earlier is the bribe situation. So for people that don't know, the bribing is, there's been arrests in some territories, but ultimately what this comes down to is mainly the ASIN reports, whereby a member of a team, maybe I think it's US, China, and in
India, I believe
as well, where someone who's apparently, should we say, works for Amazon and is basically sending the data out the back doors. So they're in the back pocket of people, which if you look at this on a logical level, if Amazon went to, say, China to wine and dine people, and they're trying to get big Chinese sellers on board onto the platform, they're wining and dining, it's networking, right? So they're going out having food and drink. There's a closer relationship there, I imagine, with a certain level of sellers than normal. So therefore, it's ripe for something like that, where they build a relationship and say, if I did this, well, how much is this worth to you, after a few drinks in a club?
Listen, it's for anybody who's done business in China, that is exactly kind of how things work there. It's a cultural thing, and I'm not here to judge it so much as to say it exists. And that is how you described is almost certainly how things go down. And we do have firsthand knowledge, where we can buy data, of the top 10,000 ASINs for a certain amount of money from China-based personnel. I've also sent my China team to a large Chinese Amazon event that happened this past summer. I think it was in Hangzhou, China, where they had 1,000 Chinese suppliers and 3,000 or 4,000 Chinese sellers show up trying to kind of put things together. And then there's a bunch of Amazon people there as well. And that kind of concept on the face of it is not terrible, but in practical reality, as you described, when they're out later at dinner and somebody's like, hey, gosh, it'd sure be nice to know about this seller or this product or this whatever, and I can make it worth your while. And again, it's here in the U.S., we're like, well, that's corrupt, that's unethical, same in the U.K. and really most of the Western world. But in China, it's like, I'll see what I can do, right? It's not the same white line between the action of, kind of sharing things. We see it as unscrupulous. In China, they see it as, you're a fool if you don't try it.
Yeah. So what do you kind of know? Because obviously Amazon are not going to come out and say, hey guys, we've got this under control. We've got loads of moles in the company that are doing unethical things, and we're now putting like a lighting of torch paper under their asses. They're not going to say that. They're going to keep this behind closed doors to deal with it, to create a mop up, right? From your understanding, you kind of alluded to they're on that, they're taking this seriously. So do you know if this is, it's going to be cleaned out completely, or is it something that they're going to get out most of the dirt, but still there's always going to be some lingering?
Well, as they describe this process of kind of cleaning up, the number one thing that they say is, as they see egregious things, then they will put a hard hammer down. And so people may recall, for example, on the one-time or the coupons, one-time use coupons or regular coupons, when you couldn't do a dollar amount anymore. That just happened, and that was the way it was. And they had a series, they mentioned this, they had a series of egregious activities that were happening. They didn't get into the details with me. And they said, we couldn't continue on with that because there was some skullduggery afoot. And so they just drew a hard line. Where they don't see, kind of that pure show-stopping problem, then they describe their efforts as kind of like moving a giant container ship. It's slow and it takes forever to kind of change course and stop. And we're all little speedboats, and we're going around in circles going, hey, there's danger ahead. And so they say, they won't tell us the actions they take. Even some of the people that are responsible for the actions, they in some ways, I think it's justifiable by Amazon to say, we can't tell you what we're doing, because then people will just figure out ways to get around that.
But they're going to do that anyway, aren't they? We know that, for every black hat tip, there's always a hack. There's always something which will go into, let's just, cover off, for instance, this thing with the search volume. Now, the search volume has been presented in such a way that everyone had access through an API, right? And that they were using it, but Amazon made some changes, and therefore no one could use the data no more. But it was never official. Amazon never said, here you go, take this. That was a hack. It's always been a hack. Hey guys, that's it from us. Please rejoin us again in a few days' time.